New information in that murder case of two Evansdale cousins. Authorities say the killer is probably someone who is local and very familiar with the area. KCCI's Laura Nichols explains the new details.
Lyric cook Morrissey and Elizabeth Collins went missing 2.5 years ago, but authorities are just revealing this new update now after talking with national experts. December 5th, 2012. Authorities find the bodies of 10-year-old Lyric Cook Morrissey and 8-year-old Elizabeth Collins inside the Seven Bridges Wildlife Area, a remote woodland in Bremer County. Fast forward 2.5 years later, authorities say this area and the people who know it are a critical piece of the puzzle.
We have no doubt that the person or persons responsible for this crime are familiar and very comfortable with the Seven Bridges area.
Local authorities held a press conference Tuesday, making this plea to the public.
We want to know about anyone who is familiar with the Seven Bridges area.
This renewed focus on Seven Bridges comes after authorities met with national experts in Virginia last week to discuss the case.
Remember why we're doing this. We have two little girls here who've never seen another Christmas.
Heather Collins says it's scary to think someone in her community could be the one who killed her daughter and niece.
If your mind is wondering, and you're like, oh God, that could be our person, that could be our guy.
Police say they followed up on hundreds of investigative leads, but they believe it's the public who will ultimately solve this case.
What's up, kings and queens? Welcome back to Bad Habits Kingdom. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. We appreciate all your guys' support. First things first, as of always, if you hear any yelling, screaming, or breaking, that is our 1-year-old daughter, Luna. She likes to be part of the show with us, and when we don't include her, she gets a little upset. And then when we do it while she's sleeping, she gets even more mad. So right now she's sleeping. That's why we got it all dark in here with the, flashy LED lights and everything. So hope you guys enjoy this episode. Tonight's episode, we're going to be going over the Evansdale Murders. Now, of course, just like Delphi, this is a case, that really gets to us because it's about these two little girls that were innocent and never harmed a soul, and unfortunately were brutally murdered. Of course, we don't know how they were murdered, but any kind of murder to little girls is brutal. So we're going to go over the basics of the case, and Kara's already started her investigations on it. Kara's not feeling really well tonight, but she wanted to be part of the video because she missed the last one, and she was really happy to see all your guys' comments where you guys were saying we appreciate Kara, we hope she gets better, and she felt real happy about it. So she was like, I gotta be part of this video. So I hope you guys are happy that she's back, because she really is.
Hey everyone.
So basically, with this case, all the cases that we do really do bother us. It really hits home, especially when it comes to kids, little girls. And of course, it really bothers us when we don't have a lot of information. With this case, we don't have a whole lot of information. And so Kara is actually going to be digging a lot deeper into this case. She said give her a couple days and she'll have a lot of information. So basically, with the basics of this case, that's what we're going to be going over and give you some of our opinions and some of our ideas. And of course, we would love your guys' opinions and ideas as well. So basically, the case is on July 13, 2012. Two cousins, Lyric Excuse me. Lyric and Elizabeth. They were two cousins. They were more like sisters, and unfortunately, they just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Is how I look at it. Lyric Cook, she was 10 years old, and Elizabeth Collins was 8 years old. So basically, the storyline goes like this. About a little afternoon at 12:15 p.m., the girls decide they were at their grandma's house and they decide to go on a bike ride. Between a little while later, between 12:30 and 1 p.m., the girls were last seen on Gilbert Drive. That's a little bit more than a mile, almost 2 miles away from their grandmother's house. A little more than an hour goes by. Their grandma starts to worry. She hasn't heard back from them or seen them since she saw him downtown, and she starts to get worried. Lyric's mother shows up, and she starts worrying and starts making phone calls to friends and family. After many failed attempts, they report the missing girls to the police, and this was around 2:45 p.m. or 2:48 p.m. I do apologize. So 6 months later, in December, I believe that's 6 months, in December 5th, 2012, the girls' bodies were discovered. Now, I do know a lot of people think that because the Delphi case and the Evansdale case, there's so much similarities that they're connected. I disagree. The reason why I disagree is, it just seems, I know the police, they compared notes and everything like that, and they said that there is no connection. I personally disagree. I just yes, there's similarities. It was both in, two little girls, both in, places where no one's around, I was missing the word for that. What's it mean when people are not around, the middle of nowhere, I guess you can say, but I was looking for a word for it. Now, that's just my opinion. I don't think they're connected, but you never know. Maybe this is, just a coincidence where this one killer is getting two little girls and killing them. It's very possible. We just don't know. We're also going to go a little over the Delphi case as well during this, towards the end. But as of right now, we're going to be doing the Evansdale. So the only thing that's really hard about this case is that we don't have a lot of information. We don't know how the girls died. And it's not like the Delphi case where Libby recorded somebody. These two girls, they had a cell phone. But from my understanding is that the cell phone wasn't used to make phone calls with. It was more just to play games and everything like that. So they didn't have any recording or any audio that we know of. Now, of course, the police have said that they will not release information. I actually heard one of the cops say that the family doesn't need to know how the girls died. Me personally, I would definitely want to know how my daughter or my child or any of my loved one was murdered. I want to know every information just so I can see what I can do to help. Now, the police said they don't want to give out any kind of information about how the girls died because they don't want any false confessions. And I thought to myself, well, there's no way in hell anyone's going to do false confessions. I was wrong. Come to find out, they had 2 or 3 people come forward and say that they were the killers. And then when the police, interviewed them and said, how did you do it? Come to find out it wasn't them, that they were like, no, I'm the one that killed the girls. And come to find out, I killed them like this, and that's not the way the girls died. Now, these 2 girls were little angels, just like Delphi. And it really gets to me every time I see a case like this, and it's just, how can I say this? It's just horrific how someone can do something like this. Like, why would you harm children and 2 little girls who haven't hurt a soul? Now, months later, actually almost a year later, come to find out, a convenience store recorded the girls on their security footage, on a security camera. I think it was a convenience store. It could have been a church. I forgot exactly what it was. But come to find out, the girls were seen on a video camera riding their bikes, heading towards the wildlife park to where bodies were discovered. Now, when the police finally found out where their bikes when they found their bikes, they didn't find their bodies except for, I believe it was 20 miles down the way, and that's a long way. Okay, come to find out, three different witnesses said that they saw an older white SUV out there at that time. Now, 2 witnesses came forward right away about it. The third witness didn't come forward until almost a year later. They said the reason why they didn't come forward is because they believe the police already knew about the car. But as of right now, 3 witnesses came forward and said that they saw an older white 4-door SUV out there at that specific time. Now, I know there's been the police did a lot of interviews with sex offenders in the area, with registered sex offenders. And you can't really blame them, Wouldn't you think that's priority one? I mean, sex offenders, that's the first way you would go. And I even though the sex offenders in that area were cleared, it doesn't mean it wasn't a sex offender that did it. What do you think?
When they did the sex offenders interviews, they basically were saying that the sex offenders, they gave a polygraph to each and every one of them, and apparently all of them were pretty false on that part. So they basically said that they wasn't there.
Yeah, I know that they were cleared, but just because those sex offenders were cleared, it doesn't mean a sex offender wasn't involved. Now, I'm not sure. Do you know if they have DNA on this case?
I mean, there could be sex offenders that haven't been admitted to the jail yet, or admitted to having, you know what I mean?
Like caught?
Yes.
Or like caught?
Like they haven't had their fingerprints in the system.
Oh, you're saying they've never been arrested. They don't have a
Exactly.
record. I see.
Yes.
So they're committing sexual crimes against kids and other things, but they're just not on record yet.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Now, this case did happen in 2012, so it was a long time ago, and I know that they had one person. Now, let me see if we can find out the information. While I'm looking up this information about this guy, Kara's gonna go over on what she thinks about it as of right now. Sorry.
Okay, so I went over the case just a little bit last night. I didn't really get much information from the case. I mean, I've only gotten a timeline of what had happened, and really, I haven't really gotten anything out of it that much. The only thing that really did surprise me was when I was looking deep into it. There was this woman that had an 8-year-old son, and she ended up saying that to the police that she had some information about the Evansdale case. And the thing is that what was weird about it is that she was in front of the train, and then she ended up pulling her son in front, and I guess it was like a murder-suicide, and they both died. That was very tragic, and it did really shock me. It gave me goosebumps. I was kind of scared to investigate a little bit more into the Evansdale case after that. But I also even looked up the police officer's report on what the guy would be like the suspect, on what his interests are, and what he would be wearing, what he looked like, and all these other things too. But I haven't gotten into detail with that yet either, because I haven't been studying on it too much, but I will get as deep into it as possible. So just give me some patience on that part.
So the 2 girls that you were talking about was 15-year-old. This happened May 20th, 2013. So 15-year-old Kathleen Shepard was walking home from school with a 12-year-old friend. While walking home, the two girls were abducted by a man that was able to lure them into his vehicle under threats of violence. After getting into the man's car, he takes them to like a pig farm, and he drove the two girls over there, which was quiet and isolated. There, the abductor zip tied the girls' hands and began separating them. He led 15-year-old Kathleen Shepard. He led her away, but the other girl was unsupervised in his truck. The 12-year-old girl was left alone and managed to escape. Excuse me, guys. I know I'm saying out loud. I'm sorry. I'm reading, and I'm not good at reading out loud. The 12-year-old girl was able to escape. She ran off in an effort to get help, which she found minutes later. When the police arrived at the scene, they discovered the trouble site. They found the man's truck, where he was inside. The body was inside the truck. He had taken his own life. But 15-year-old Kathleen Shepard was nowhere to be found. Her body was later to be discovered several weeks later, about 20 miles downriver from the pig farm. She had been stabbed, she was stabbed and beaten to death. I mean, this is just horrible. The abductor was later identified as Michael Klunder, Klunder, Klunder? Yeah. Michael Klunder, a registered sex offender from Stratford, Iowa. He has spent better part of 2 decades in prison for kidnapping, assaulting a woman, and abduction of 2 3-year-old kids. Thankfully, all of them survived. He would later he was only out for a short time when this crime took place. So this is a guy that was in prison for, a long time. He gets out, and commits this. These cases just bother the hell out of me. They really do. So I do apologize when I do moments of silence. I just get really emotional about these cases. Now, here's what I'm going to talk about real quick. Now, Lyra Cook, 10 years old. I feel my heart really goes out for her. My heart goes out for both of the girls. Now, these 2 girls, of course, were like, Elizabeth Collins and Lyra Cook. They were more like sisters than they were cousins. Now, Elizabeth's family was stable. They were normal, average, everyday mom and pop. Now, Lyric's parents were not. Lyric, her dad was a big time, well, I wouldn't say big time, but he was into the underground life. He was into drugs. He built a meth lab. I believe her mom was also a drug user and drug dealer. So she never had that good life. So I believe her staying at her grandma's house as much as she possibly could was peaceful for her as much as possible. And of course, your kids, they're having fun riding bikes. It's a sad thing. Now, Evansdale only has a population of about 5,000 people, but there's 100,000 people in the immediate cities around Evansdale. So it could have really been anybody. But hundreds and hundreds of supporters went to the girls' funeral to show their love and support for the girls. It hurt the town really bad. And probably the entire state. I think the entire state was affected by this. Now, just like the Delphi case, the killer, yes, as of right now, he has gotten away with it. But he has hundreds of thousands of people looking for him. How can his stress level be? Just like with the Delphi killer, they actually have him on video and have an audio of him. He knows that hundreds of thousands of people are looking for him. Hundreds and thousands. You know what I mean? You gotta constantly be paranoid. You gotta be nervous. You gotta watch who you talk to. Or they're gonna recognize my voice from that audio. Now, here's what the police are saying. The police are saying when they're talking about the Evansdale murder, they think the guy might have had some kind of financial. This is pretty much of what they think the killer was like. He probably had financial issues. He probably had relationship issues, domestic issues. He probably, had, was going depression. He was depressed. They believe, now here's what gets me a little bit. They believe that he actually looks up the case of the Evansdale murders, that he actually goes online and on other social media sites and actually looks up the case and follows it. Now, the Delphi murders, a lot of people think that the suspect doesn't follow it at all. I kind of disagree with that. I think that the Delphi killer and the Evansdale killer, they both follow the cases really strong, just to see if they have any leads or anything like that. I bet they watch it 10 times more than any of us. I bet they watch it nonstop, or at least listen to it. Now, with both of these killers, they definitely a lot of similar, Here's what I'm going to say real quick. When it comes to the Delphi murders, I was looking more towards Paul Etter, who is currently deceased from taking his own life when he had a standoff with police. But at least we had, some kind of evidence that Libby got for us. She did what she could to get for us. Lyric and Elizabeth, they didn't have a working phone. They weren't able to actually do anything to try to help. Now, this is what gets me. Both of these happen in broad daylight. Both of these happen at some kind of, the Myers Lake, the wildlife, park, the bridge, the trail. People go to these places all the time. The killer definitely knew the areas for each crime. So I'm going to say either he was, if he didn't live in Evansdale, he definitely lived in one of those immediate cities. You need to get up, babe?
No, you gotta end it soon.
Okay. He definitely ended, okay. All right, guys, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to end the video. Definitely check in tomorrow. I'm sorry it wasn't a whole lot of information. I'll definitely get back with you guys later on tonight.
Okay, hold on. We're not ending the video now. We're just trying to wait to do a part 2. Because of the 20 minutes limit.
Okay. All right, guys, I hope you did enjoy the video. Sorry we didn't get over a whole lot. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you're watching this video, and tune in tomorrow with another episode. You guys have a good night and stay safe.